In today's video, I am going to be breaking down Joshua Christopher and how he shoots the basketball. He is a very good shooter coming into the NBA this year, so let's get down and let's break down how he is such a great shooter. Okay, so first off, I just really want to point out that he does have a tilt when it comes to his shot. Now, the idea behind a tilt is to have basically your body tilted away so that your upper arm can be straight forward to the net. Now, from there, we do also see that at least half of that ball is about close to being over top of that upper arm. That essentially does create that shooting triangle. From there, what we do see when he starts to release this ball is that the release is a split finger release. We can actually see that right here. Now, there are some trainers who will have different opinions on this, and this is my own personal opinion. You really want to try and aim to have that ball go off your middle finger. However, depending on your shooting form, you may want to have a split finger release, whether it be both your index as well as your middle finger, or depending on how far out your elbow is, you may want to have a mix between a ring finger and a middle finger release. Now, it really does depend. If your elbow is out, and because your elbow being out, it wants to shoot out towards that left side, that is when you want to use a ring finger and middle finger release. If your elbow is tucked in too far, then that will sometimes make that ball go out towards that right side, which would then be a split finger release. However, if, for example, you have your elbow out and you have your wrist bent back almost at a 90-degree angle and it's slightly out, as we see here with Josh Christopher, that's when you would want to have a split finger release, as if you've got a slightly out elbow and your wrist is at 90 degrees. By having that split finger release, as we see here, that is going to allow him to have a straight shot. There is so many things that go in with a shot. Now, there are some trainers who will say you can only shoot split finger. There are some coaches who will say that you can only shoot middle finger. It really comes down to your personal shooting form. And then from here, what we do see is that he has absolutely zero thumb flick and that he also has a very soft release. So we can see here, after he releases that ball, he has a very soft release that actually, if we really pay attention to it, actually somewhat bounces back up. He also has his elbow above his forehead, which will give him the arc needed to be able to shoot the ball at a high percentage. The next thing I like to really look at is the player's feet. And as we can see here, his heels are off the ground, and when he goes up for his shot, something else that we do see is when he gets that ball, he slightly dips and his shoulders are pretty well in line with his knees and his toes. However, he does dip that ball, and for some players, dipping that ball will allow him to shoot at a higher percentage, almost like a backswing in golf. We can see that he does have that slight tilt that I mentioned before, and his knees, if we really pay attention to his knees, they don't come together, which means that his legs are extremely strong. He's worked on the inside of his quads as well as the outside, and that will allow him to essentially be able to have a little bit more of a consistent shot, in my own opinion. Sometimes when players bring their knees together, it can create inconsistencies because there's more movement. However, at the same time, there's a lot of trainers who will say that bringing your knees together could create injuries. It really does depend on the trainer at that point and what they think. However, in general, the least amount of movement, the better. The next thing we do see with Josh Christopher's shot is the fact that his right heel comes off the ground first and really does engage that calf as well as that Achilles. That really means that he's trying to get off the ground quick so that he can get up into his shot. Now, he does release that ball super early before he even really starts essentially extending his elbow, and he does have that really quick soft release. Now, when he does have that set point, we can see that it is close to the right side or the middle of his forehead, and that he has about a 45-degree angle on his elbow. He does have generally a very bent wrist. However, from this shot, we don't see that, but from that other angle, we did see wrinkles in that wrist, which generally means that he's got a very high bend on that wrist, which that could create inconsistencies depending on how often he does shoot like that. Now, if we fast forward, we can see that he does not shoot with that much of a wrist bend from this angle, and is actually quite a straight wrist when it comes to his forearm. So that could have been just a one-off shot. However, he still does have that split finger release. Now, from this angle, he actually has a little bit more of a bend on that wrist once again. So it may just be the area of the court that he's on, which is actually quite interesting. I'm not too sure if that could add to any kind of a consistency or inconsistency. However, it is quite interesting. He also doesn't bend that elbow on the way up into his shot, which is good. You generally don't want to start with a straight arm and bend your arm on the way up. You're essentially just adding movement, and any time that you add movement to your shot, that can at that point create inconsistencies once again. We're trying to have a nice shot that doesn't have inconsistencies. Overall, this is a very good shot. We do see a slight leg sway, as what I call it. Basically, his lower body sways forward, however, those shoulders stay in the same plane. Now, by having a leg sway where the shoulders don't move forward, what that basically does for you is it gives you more power. However, if you're swaying but your shoulders are also going forward, that can lead to inconsistencies once again. However, we don't see that with Josh Christopher. He goes straight up and straight back down, but his legs do sway forward. That just gives him power. And then how he brings that ball up to his set point is by bringing that ball up the middle of his body. Some coaches will say bringing it up the middle of your body is going to be too slow, or it can lead to inconsistencies. To me, it doesn't matter if you bring it up from the right side or if we bring it up the middle. If you're shooting from the middle of your forehead anyways, or close to it, going up the middle of your body can actually speed up your shot anyways. I hope that this video has helped you become a better shooter in basketball. If it has, hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next time.